Quiet on the set.
AC.
Quiet.
No, sound like the screen door on Friday and shit. Damn, Smokey. Excuse me, stagehand.
Anybody else's lips smell funny?
I'm good at doing dumb
and I'm breathing like a fat kid.
Man, I just got stage fright.
The Grog Bowl follows 3 Army veterans on a trail of self-discovery and hopefully progress as they talk about life before, during, and after service. These 3 service members have varied jobs, time in service, and experience after service, but one thing remains constant. You are never the same, for better or worse, after any amount of service.
Today's episode of the Grog Bowl podcast is brought to you by 1776 Tactical Corporation, Recon Tree Care, the Veterans Mobile Sawmill, and CLT Media Group. If you like what you hear, take a moment to subscribe to the podcast so you know exactly when we publish our next episode. And don't forget, follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Next episode coming at you right now. I hope you got your phone on vibrate, man, so they don't interrupt the podcast.
Hey, that's a good look. That's that old military stuff right there, man.
Yeah, put it on do not disturb. That way the text messages coming in don't make your phone go hing on the table.
It shouldn't do none of that. I got it all. It shouldn't do none of that.
All right, good. Yeah, I got mine. See, we on do not disturb right there. But yeah, let's do a quick intro. You know, I'm always outranked when it comes to these rooms, man. You know, got out as an E6, got a couple of senior NCOs.
Nah,
you know. So
not anymore.
Hey, but nah, I'm grateful for all the things that I accomplished while I was on active duty. Eugene, you know me. Mike, you know me. So what I really would like is for y'all to introduce yourselves to one another. We'll start with Eugene Nash.
Well, Mike, like I said, me and Uncle, I call him Uncle Jimmy because when we were roommates in AIT, when his nephew would call, that's how he would. Yes, Uncle Jimmy there. So I started calling him Uncle Jimmy. But no, man, we were roommates in AIT 23 years ago now.
How long?
That was 23 years ago, bro.
Yeah, it was 23 years ago. Roommates.
Yeah, ran the streets together.
Oh man,
he was a good kid. He was a good guy though, man. You wouldn't think so, but yeah, I was a bad one. But yeah, man, I joined the Army the same MOS as him. I was a reservist. At the time, it was 91 Alpha. I was not electronically inclined at all. And I ended up touching one of those machines, and it didn't feel so good, and I had an option to get out, so I got the heck out. And had I known then what I know now and what fruits come from even just having that under your belt through the military, I might have stuck it out, but I went a different path and went dental, and I served my 23 years as a dental specialist, 22 years, yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, that's why you got them pearly whites, huh?
Hey. I tell people all the time, before you get out, man, I wouldn't have got that Hollywood smile on that last run. So,
hey, I ain't mad at you.
I don't much care for dentists, but you seem pretty nice, so we'll go with that. Anyway, so you can see there. So my name is Mike, and I was a combat engineer for 20 years. I just retired this past December. I had a roommate who was a National Guardsman too, but there was 8 of us sharing a room for basic training in AIT. So it was one of them open bay concepts.
That's rough.
4 bunk beds, 8 wall lockers. Had to go across the hall to the bathroom.
Nuts and butts.
We didn't get the fancy stuff. We weren't special. I had some World War II barracks. Yeah, it was pretty gross.
Yeah.
But yeah.
20, man, God, that's a lot of years of service between the two of y'all, man.
Between with you, in addition to, man, don't take your service lightly, bro. You was in when they say get it out the mud, James. We went through a time where, bro, we had to get it out the mud, literally, man. And it's not like we were just that much harder than anybody else, but bro, we had some trying times from day one, man.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it wasn't all peaches and cream. I will say that.
He always tries to downplay. But don't let him get to you. Like everybody's service matters, and everybody's service is different, and it doesn't. And it's weird because when we do this with Derek, me and Derek were both. So Derek was in the woods all the time. I was in the woods most of the time, and he walked by the woods. Right, so you've got these three different paths of all of us doing all of these things, but all the stories, they're all the same.
It's similar, yeah.
They're all different.
Man, I was chilling in the hospital, man. It was nice. I ain't gonna lie. I mean, the first 4.5 years. I mean, even that though, like, cause we were stationed in Hawaii, so it wasn't like it was great. So I mean, I can't really say any of my time was bad. Utah, that was kind of a dump. Like, oh yeah, you remember saw in first class Derek Plummer? Plummer, man. I know you remember that dude, man.
Look, that's a part of my dang going on
So his forehead looked like how mine looked right now. But
yes.
It was real. Every time he made us line up outside the block in the hallway, and every day he would make sure I had my shaving profile in my left breast pocket. Every day for 17 days.
Word.
Sergeant First Class Derek Plummer. And then when I PCS'd to Utah from Hawaii, he was the NCOIC.
Watch out.
Guess what he gave me for my PCS award?
A razor.
Don't tell me he mounted a shaving profile in a plaque.
When I was PCSing, I got a certificate of achievement.
No way.
No, a COA?
He did you dirty.
I'm like, you know what though? I was like, man, am I really that much of a shitbag? I was only there for like 6 months. Like I literally PCS from Hawaii to Salt Lake City, Ogden Depot for 6 months, and then I PCS again. That had to be some kind of record.
Yeah.
Remember
So
when,
you got a COA and you got shipped out in 6 months.
6 months. So I was coming up for reenlistment anyway, and the NCO, the reenlistment NCO, the retention NCO was like, "Well, what do you want?" I said, "Get me the fuck out of here."
And you got it.
And I got it. Shit, I was doing my reenlistments like LeBron do his contracts.
Watch out.
Give me 2 years with a player option on the end. At work today, somebody said, "Man, you just an imposter, man. Like you're a spy. You're just an imposter who's pretending to be a biomed, but you're really a spy." I said, yeah. I work for Hamas.
Oh, my back. I can't laugh. My back's
I know, right? The worst of the worst. Today's topic, and just so everybody knows, we have a third host by the name of Derek, and he did what, 17 years, 15 years?
16. It was somewhere around there. He medically retired at I think it was 16 years.
Yeah. So, and he mentions that on the introduction podcast. So, but he was unable to record tonight, and we just want to let everybody know that he will be back soon. So, but we took a small hiatus because Derek and Mike were doing some personal things, and then prior to that, we had some people get ill. So we definitely wanted to get back to what we were doing and, just come out with some additional content. And tonight's episode, we wanted to talk about somebody, or it could be multiple persons who you interacted with or encountered in your military career that was a mentor to you, or, they just really influenced you, and the things that person impressed upon you has helped you through your military career and beyond. So I think it would be nice to start with Mike.
Sure.
And just, talk about that real quick.
So I actually struggled with coming up with the right topic for this or the right people for this because I said it in my retirement speech. I learned something from everybody. I didn't have one mentor. I didn't have somebody I went to all the time, but I did have people that I would go to repeatedly. But I learned something from everybody. I either learned how not to do it by watching them fail, or I learned how to do it by either talking to them or, watching them succeed. But I picked two people. So I'll start with the one, and then if we have time, I'll come back to the other one. The first person is actually, he wasn't my first team leader, but he was one of my first team leaders. And he actually, I deployed with him as a team leader. I have several stories to share about him, but I'm going to get to one eventually. And I have trouble getting through this without vomiting. But it's a good story. But anyway, he was one of my first team leaders. At the time, he was Sergeant Cress Clanton. Not Clanton. Yeah, Clanton. Cress Clanton. He was an E5. He was my team leader. Super chill dude. He was my team leader for over 2 years. And I think he only yelled at me one time. And I deserved it. I legit deserved it. I could see those eyes get huge. I don't remember what I did. I don't remember what he said. But the one time he yelled at me, I remember that to this day. But all the other times I messed up or somebody else messed up or whatever, he'd get the tone, you'd get the look, you'd get, the fix it. But he wasn't irate. He wasn't loud. He wasn't the typical Army leader at the time. He wasn't, the yeller and the screamer and all those things. And the reason I picked him to talk about was because his personality matched my personality pretty well. And that's who I became. Generally speaking, I didn't yell at the soldiers. I didn't have to scream at them. I had the same group when I was a squad leader and platoon sergeant. I had several soldiers who were with me for 4 or 5 years. And one time I blew up. I remember this one time we were out on a run. Lieutenant said to do something, and this guy's like, no. He said, the guy was falling behind, and the lieutenant was like, hey, you pick him up and carry him. And they're like, you're not going to pick me up. And he's like, yes, I'm going to pick you up. And I turned around and I just went ballistic. I was like, he said, get picked up. You're going to get picked up and we'll carry him. I lost it, right? I shouldn't have lost it. But after that run, somebody came up to me and he's like, I've been with you for 3 years. And that's the first time I've seen you raise your voice. And they didn't realize at the time that, all of those things that I had learned from, growing up, I was able to maintain a relatively mellow demeanor all the time. I was able to get things done without yelling and screaming and hollering at people. Every time, whenever you're doing formations as a platoon sergeant, you got everybody outside in formation. You're waiting on first sergeant to walk out, right? All the soldiers are standing around jaw jacking. Everybody's just going around. You look down the line, and everybody, when it's time to go, everybody turns around, yells, screams, hollers, whatever they have to do to get everybody in line. I would just stand at parade rest in front of my platoon, and I'd go, psst. instantly they were done. Mutual respect all the way around, right? And that's what I learned from this first team leader of mine, Sergeant Clanton. And you don't have to be angry. You don't have to be loud. You don't have to be overbearing. You have to have mutual respect with people. Now, don't get me wrong. There are times when the yelling needs to happen, right? But it's few and far between. And he was one of those guys that his mannerisms and his demeanor matched my personality coming out. And I'm glad I got him early on, so I didn't have to pretend to be somebody else for a long time before I figured out that I was allowed to be myself and be my own leader right from the jump. But the story, I got to tell this story. Every time I think about it, it kind of makes me gag, right? So we're deployed in Iraq for my first deployment. I was a driver. I started out as a 113 driver, and then I switched over to, I was the platoon sergeant's driver. Anyway, Clanton is my team leader. He's also my gunner and all this other stuff. We're sitting around a table. I don't remember if we were playing spades or if we were watching movies, or he was also a big knife guy. I have a huge knife that he got me to buy that I wore on my vest. We're sitting around sharpening knives. Something was happening. All of us are sitting around this table inside this tent. He also not chewing tobacco, dip, right? Spitting into a bottle, putting whatever, right? Yeah, just you got that big fat lip right there. All the time he had that, right?
Oh,
so
sorry.
we're sitting around, we're doing something, and he reaches over and he knocks over his dip bottle and he spills it on the table, right? So he, without hesitation, everybody grabs their stuff and picks it up. And without hesitation, he grabs the bottle, ducks his face down, slurps it up, and spits it back into the bottle. Without hesitation, without nothing. He didn't react at all. He just put it back in the bottle, put the bottle down, wiped it off with his forearm, and the table was clean again. Like he never even thought about it. And every time I think about that story, it makes my stomach turn. And and that'll be a memory I have with that guy forever.
Yo, that's wild.
I don't know.
That's by far the nastiest story I've ever heard.
But that's one of the reasons. Like he was one of the most influential people in my career, just because I got him first and the kind of high caliber person he was.
Man, yeah, I yelled at soldiers all the time.
I can hear you yelling at me right now.
Yeah, like, man, shit. Soon as I pin them damn 3 chevrons on, I was rocking and rolling.
Game on.
I just knew, like I knew, like it was time for me to turn up, man. I don't know. Probably did it the wrong way, but.
Everybody's got their own style, and it works for some people. I'm glad I learned that I could do it my way and still be effective.
For sure.
But in saying that, Mike, that's why I could never be a drill sergeant, because it required people to go to a place that may not necessarily be them. And I wasn't about that yelling either. And I was like, yeah, you got to be yelling, you got to be mean, you got to put on this face. And you do that for 2 years, and if you extend it 3, that becomes who you are. Like, I got friends that were drill sergeants that treat their kids like they're dang on troops.
So yes and no. Well, I can't really talk about drill sergeant. I was an AIT platoon sergeant for a little while, which was, we called it drill sergeant without the hat. It was a staged down version of it, right? Because at the time, like, we didn't have the basic training to worry about. We had AIT to worry about, but we still had to step up the game every once in a while to keep everybody in line. And yes, you're correct. You did more yelling. You did more dominating of the soldiers to help keep them in line. And I will say this, and this is one thing about our podcast, is the honesty comes out. For a little while there, I fell into the wrong crowd of leaders, and I started drifting away from my more nonchalant attitude and more carefree attitude. And I started getting on people more. And I did bring it home, and it got rough. Luckily, my wife she's a trooper, man. She called me on it. And every time it would come out, she'd be like, "We're not your soldiers. What are you doing?" And I'd catch myself and I'd fix it and I'd, try to go away. But you're right. Being a drill sergeant or being one of those dictator type people that you're supposed to be, if you're not careful, you will bring it home. And that's not okay. That's not normal. It's not required either. You got to have somebody who's going to call you on it. So if you've got people that are still doing it and they're not in anymore, just call them aside and be like, "Man, tone it down a little bit." I mean, you got to figure out the right way to go about it because everybody's different. But
yeah,
you can be effective without going that deep into it sometimes.
Yeah, to your point,
Jim.
Mike, I used to whip the hell out of my kids when I was in the military. And especially when I was an instructor, like, cause I was in that whole cadre mode, like, drilling troops and, enforcing, standards, discipline. And so I think they got it the worst when I was in, Shepherd as an instructor. I used to tear that ass up.
Man, you got to tell me. Hang on. You got to tell me. This is the only Jim I know. This soft-spoken, like, hippie version of Jim.
Oh, no.
Is he just blowing smoke, or is he a whole new person now?
You ever seen them old movies with those pimps? How they talk real smooth to they hoes, and they ain't got to raise their voice. That's the old him. He didn't have to raise his voice, but he said it with a certain amount of assertiveness, that smooth. You better get out of my face, they knew what it was. But at that same time, and that was years ago. It was a transition, and I don't know if it was biblical, but I remember he said one thing to me. He said, no matter what anybody else does around you, to you, and your relationships, whatever, you got to be accountable for yourself. He said that to me, and I've lived by that since then. And that had 2000 and that was a long time ago. 7, 8.
Yeah,
he's always dropping these little pearls of wisdom.
You know why? Because I made so many mistakes, and the mistakes I made, they cause a lot of pain. And so if I could ever impart that on somebody and prevent them from going through the same pain that I went through, for me, that's a win. You know what I'm saying? And I do it, I try to do it for my friends and, for the people that I love, I try to do that for them because, who wants to go through a lifetime of pain,
Yeah.
And if you don't have people like that give you those types of conversations or come to you with information that's just going to benefit your life overall, then what are they really? You know what I'm saying? That's my opinion.
And back then he was unfiltered too. It wasn't no filter. It was pure heart.
For sure. Yeah. Things a lot of things change with maturity.
Yeah.
I'm truly grateful for where I am today and the people that I'm involved with, the people that I continue to encounter.
Yeah.
So that what you just said right there, the people you're involved with, one thing you forget, or you don't forget, the one thing you're cursed to learn as you age is you are the master of who you surround yourself with. You don't have to be friends with the people that are not good for you. My daughter's 10 and she comes home and talks about all these kids at school. And the way she talks about them, they're not good people. Not all of them. There are some of the people that she wants to be friends with. They're not good people. And right now she wants to be friends with them because they seem like the cool kids. But what he just said is you learn as you grow older that you get to pick who you involve in your life and that is a freeing thing. Being able to choose who you put your effort into. So I'm glad you chose us, Jim.
Yeah, I chose y'all. Man, look, we're a band of bearded brothers. Look at that, man.
Hey, after 20 plus years of not being able to have it.
Hey, it looks good too.
I try to maintain it, dark and lovely. Get a deal, beard oil.
Yeah, there's a Sharpie to fill in the grays.
I don't even bother, man. Like when the sunlight hit this thing a certain way, the whole thing looked great.
Plus, when you German chocolate, man, anything. That's a throwback. Everybody don't know.
Yeah. I knew somebody was going to embarrass me, man.
Nah.
It's all good, though. I mean, hey, like, it is what it is, man. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is. But, yeah, we'll talk about that another time, about the whole German chocolate thing, man. That's AIT mode. Let's get back to the topic. I'd like to hear from Steven on somebody who you consider influential, inspirational, all those kind words.
So I'll tell you, man, I would say somebody that shaped me into a servant leader. It happened actually when we were in AIT. For the life of me, I cannot remember this guy's name, but he was the master sergeant that was over the 91 Alpha program. And I was having some difficulties with an instructor.
Oh, I know exactly who you're talking about.
I can't
Master Sergeant Ford.
Yes. Brown skinned guy with the little glasses.
Yeah.
Thank you. I've been trying to remember that name. So thank you. Look at God working. But I was having some issues with an instructor out there. I dare not say his name because I don't want to speak that kind of. But I was having some issues with the guy, and he made it his fucking life's goal to make my life hell. And I didn't know who to go to. They had a discussion. I went to that master sergeant saw me, and he pulled me in. He spoke to me, and I told him what was going on. And from that day forward, that instructor never bothered me again. It was clearly this guy had a history of doing some things. So that particular Master Sergeant Ford shaped me into a servant leader.
I know who you're talking about too. I know that E7 you talking about.
And you know what? I seen that. Ooh, I saw that bastard some years later. He looked like he was on death's doorstep. He didn't even recognize me. And I walked past him in the commissary, and he didn't. I saw him, and I had a flashback. It's like you see those movies where people had like Life. Let's say Life. Eddie Murphy. Them when they saw the cop that arrested him get off that bus, and they had that. I had a flashback like that when I saw that fool, and I just walked past him to see if he would even recognize me. He looked right at me. So. But Master Sergeant Ford shaped me into being a servant leader. But over the course of my career, the first real, like Mike said earlier, you get something from everybody. But the real first leader that I would say was a mentor, and the way they moved was about the black and white and not the gray, and not being a yes man. I had a Staff Sergeant Boyd, man, and dude. He was an East Coast brother, man, real smooth, like Uncle Jimmy, and he kept it about the work. He kept it about being the accountability, and it made me realize like I can mess up and I can still come back in here and I could be a stellar guy. That one thing doesn't dictate who I am as a whole. I was still young and I was still growing and trying to learn it. And he stood up to a lieutenant in a staff meeting. And I just happened to be the low man on the total pole. I was a PFC. And that lieutenant was reaming into me about some things that I had no idea about, And Staff Sergeant Boyd, he kind of stood up to the guy in front of me. They excused me from the meeting after so they can continue the battle. But it was the fact that he had the courage. He wasn't worried about self-preservation. What was wrong, and he was willing to, and that shaped me to continue to say, and over the years, he was a mentor. I could reach out to him for anything, man, and he steered me right, man. Whether I always followed the advice he gave me, because, I was pig-headed and determined to do it my way. But And even post-military, no, still a mentor. I contact him. We talk sports, we talk life, we talk family. And then I had a female mentor too. And I didn't run into her until I was 10 years in the military. And I call her Mama Barnett. When I met her, she was the E7. And I was going through a transition where I was getting divorced, and I had become a womanizer. And I was only an E5, but I don't say that like it's an excuse. But I was, like I said, I was womanizing, man. I was out there. I didn't give a damn who it was. And while she didn't catch me doing anything, she kind of saw how I was moving. And she came and she sat me down. She took me behind closed door. She never accused me of anything, but she gave me books to read about, being a wholesome person, being a good man, and the kind of man that a woman want to look for. She wasn't hitting on me, she just took me under her wing. And from that, whenever I had doubts about how I was moving as a male in uniform, how I was moving as a male outside the uniform, I would contact her, and she's been a guiding light in my military, post-military, professional, and private life. And to this day, she still is. And I've always utilized between those two people, like Mike said, that yelling. I wasn't a yeller, man. I could sit back and just get my point across just as talking in the same monotone voice. That doesn't mean I don't care. It's just, hey, it's not worth me getting upset about, me raising my voice, making you more tense, and making it an unproductive situation. So those two people, if I had to pick mentors, they were my mentors. But Matt Sergeant Ford, I'm going to have to try to find that guy. Thanks, Jim. I appreciate that, man.
He was a good guy. It's funny because when I was having issues in the school, and I think it was, matter of fact, it was when I went to the S shift trying to hang out with you and Mo and Black. So I was like, man, all my friends they going out on the weekend and shit, and I'm on T shift. I'm on night shift going to school while these dudes is doing their thing. And I was like, man, fuck that. I'm going to the day shift. And I was like, man, I was in class like this.
Knocked out.
And they were just logging it, sleeping on this day, man. They had a paper trail on me. And I was like, you know what? I went, I was up on the chopping block. So, you know how that go.
Yeah.
I watched back, and I was like, they was like, well, you got to come up with a plan. So I went to see Sergeant Ford, Master Sergeant Ford. Between him and Leo, they got me back on T shift, and I cruised through the rest of the course. Like it was like all A's, first time go on everything.
Yeah. No, me and Anderson stayed in touch through the years too.
Yeah, I just saw Leo at Wendell Johnson's retirement ceremony.
Okay.
So I was wearing my hair down, and I had a little suit, like I had a little jacket, suit jacket, sports jacket. They was calling me Ricky Fontaine and shit. I said, I was like, man, y'all ain't shit, man. and Wendell, who was CW5, he was co-signing, talking about Pretty Ricky, what they call
Pretty Ricky, yeah.
But nah, man, Master Sergeant Ford, yeah, great guy, man. So I'm glad that he had an impact on you, because he had an impact on me as well. So that's crazy that we actually have that commonality.
Yeah.
But we was right there at Shepherd. You was like a legend. You was the only dental student that was phase 5 plus 20 over there. This dude was a legend. So if you don't know what phase 5 plus 20 is, like when you first get the AIT, you just wearing PTs while you walking around with a. So what you do is you go get a Coke out the vending machine, you pour half of it out, and you put some E&J in there to fill it back up, or some Hennessy.
Yeah,
that was the move. And I mean, everybody walking around with these damn soda bottles, and I'm like, man, what's going on over here, man? and I'm seeing soldiers laid out drunk, and it was always one of them little soda bottles close by to where they fell out at. But yeah, so when you get there, you phase 4. You don't have any privileges. And then you go through a couple weeks, and then you got to go through a room inspection. You got to do a uniform inspection, and you get promoted to phase 5, where you get civilian clothes, and you get a couple of privileges, like you could go off base and stuff like that. And then there was phase 5 plus 20, where you at 20 weeks in. Then you get the key. Like if you have a car, you get the keys to your car. Like it's like you almost like permanent party at that point. So I had a 4-door Saturn. We call somebody nicknamed it the Purple Passion. But
what song did you used to blast out that thing that used to get us in trouble? Ludacris.
Oh yeah, I got hoes. I got hoes. I got hoes. And Lieutenant Gresham she used to smile at us when she seen us playing that shit. But then right after she smiled, she tell us to turn it down. Turn that shit down. Man, I swear to God, I think she owned like some type of restaurant in Atlanta or something. I swear to God. I seen a license plate on that same. Remember, she had like a little like a Lexus truck or something.
Yeah,
like that?
yeah.
But it had Gresham on the license plate. Same
Yep,
truck.
you're right. Yep.
It was the same truck. I swear to God. But yeah, that's phase 5. But yeah, this dude was the only dental student, because dental students, they was only there for what, 8 weeks?
6, 7, 8 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, but
And you were there 20?
Well,
more than that.
Because I started out as an alpha, and that's a 13-month course.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so he started out as an alpha and then reclassed to an echo. I don't know how the hell he did that. He was, like I said, this dude was a legend. He was the only one to ever do it. Anybody else that was an alpha that was getting reclassed, they was
in the field artillery. Them jokers was sad. Straight field artillery. No option.
13 Foxtrot, here I come.
So when I was an AIT platoon sergeant with anybody else reclassed, they reclassed to 88 Mike. Straight out the door. 88 Mike, you're gone.
That's not too bad, though, man. That's not field artillery. Yeah,
it's nice meeting y'all, man. Y'all hang with this joker, man. Y'all got to be some good dudes, man. Because like he said earlier, man, his circle has never been a really big circle. Dating back, man, and it sucks that it has to be like that, but it has to be like that, man, to protect your peace, to protect, basically your peace, man, and have a productive life, because everybody ain't for you, man.
Yeah. So real quick, I'm a before we end it, I'm gonna just talk about a couple mentors that I had. So the first mentor was when I got to 225 as well. It was Staff Sergeant Julio Cruz. So this, honestly, like this dude was like the consummate NCO. Like the Army has a leadership manual, right? I think it was FM 22-100.
That's what it was. Them things, they got DA PAMs and all kind of.
Okay, so but that's what I remember. So
yeah.
This dude literally used to carry that around, like, and so I'm gonna be honest. I never read that book the way he probably did. I couldn't even tell you what that book was really about. I do remember, and correct me if I'm wrong, but on the cover of that book, it said, "Be no do."
Yeah.
Well, that's exactly what he did. So he would be the example. He was always on time. Always looked sharp. The know part to me means know your soldiers. This dude was at my wedding. He knew my kids' names. He knew my birthday. Of course, because when you get a new soldier, you make them fill out a data sheet, right, with all the information. But it wasn't just a formality because when my anniversary came around, I didn't have to go to work. Or when he knew when my kids' birthdays was, he knew when my birthday was. So, like, those things, when a person shows that they care to that level, it's like you'll do anything for them. And so I never forgot that. And I try to be that type of leader and that type of person when I was coming up in the Army. And not just even in the Army, but like personally, like I wanted to be that type of person. That's the type of impression that he had on me. You know, if I was wrong, he would correct me. But you know, most of the time it was like he just appreciated me for, you know, like wanting to do things like air assault school, EF&B. Like this dude would he literally motivated me to do all that stuff. And because I didn't know what air assault school was. I didn't know what EF&B was. But guess what? He had all that shit on his chest. And I wanted to be like him. And so every time there was an opportunity to go to EF&B, air assault, anything, hey, I'll raise my hand, send me. And when I graduated air assault school, he was right there on the front row. It was him. It was my first sergeant, and I believe Lieutenant Belmont at that time that came out to the graduation. But this dude was like my biggest motivator, my biggest cheerleader. Like he felt as though my success was his success. And ultimately it was, because you're a reflection of the leadership, right? So if my soldiers are doing great things, that must mean I'm doing great things. And that's what it was. Like I wanted to be great so that people knew I was a reflection of him. And, you know, that pretty much stuck with me for the rest of my career. First Sergeant Foster was he was a mentor for me as well. You know, he was that upper level, like that senior that was, you know, that next step above. But like he was somebody else that I aspired to be. Like another guy that was like uniform was always on point. Like he was a drill sergeant. Another thing that I really wanted to be that. And so when like he would call me his protege every once in a while, and I was like I took that to heart. Like,
yeah,
you know, I'm like, this dude he's in front of the company every day. You know, like everybody look up to a senior leader, you know, at some point, and he was one of the senior leaders that I looked up to, that I kept in contact with. So like, you know, if I needed a reference for a resume, he was always willing to be that reference for me. And just over the years, like we just stayed in contact. So like kind of like how me and Terry stay in touch, you know, I have those relationships. Maybe not as deep as like what you and I have in terms of like talking every other day, like, cause you know what I'm saying? Like me and you, we're closer in age. So, you know, we have a lot of similarities in that aspect. And First Sean was, you know, he's a little bit older. So just some different life experiences, but, you know, he would still take moments to, you know, impart things upon me that I might run into down the road. So, and I always appreciated him for that. And, you know, he was very transparent about a lot of things, you know, that went on. And, you know, like I just had a lot of respect for that and made me want to be more of a transparent person. And so I just really respected him for that. And lastly, I would say Wendell Johnson. He was a mentor for me. In the more of the biomed arena, I didn't know a lot about biomed when I left 225. I didn't really learn anything at the depot level. And when I got to Wynn Army Hospital, he took me under his wing and showed me a lot of things as it pertains to how to be a biomed in a hospital setting, how to be a leader in a hospital setting, how to go through things like JCO inspections and things like that pertain really like what an expert should know in my career field. And so I was able to take the things that he learned, that tutelage that he provided, and help me to sustain my career pretty much, because I knew at some point I was going to get out of the military. I just didn't know when. And so that part of my career, he was a huge mentor in that aspect. And, he invited me to church one time. I went to church. I was having struggles in my marriage. Stephen, you know about that. You and I talked about that.
Yeah.
And, he was there to try and put me on a better path in order to sustain what he knew I really wanted, which was to be with my wife and, to keep my family
together. Yes, sir.
Yeah. And so, he knew that about me, and he took it upon himself to try and be a part of my life in that aspect and, make sure that I was doing the right thing. And so it's just stuff like that just really sticks with you, man. And I've had encounters with several leaders in the military, but, those are my top three that really influenced me to be pretty much who I am. And, through a lot of counseling, I've learned some different mechanisms and skills to, just help further my relationships that I've built. So, shout out to my therapist.
Shout out to all the damn therapists. Shit, I'm saying they don't get paid enough.
What's missing? Mike, did you ever get another drink? I never went upstairs to get a drink.
I did because I'm right next to the kitchen. So
okay. Oh damn. Yeah.
So hey, before we run this out, I had another person I wanted to talk about, because everybody else has been talking mostly about peers that they've had or slightly above grade people that they were mentoring with. And man, every time we talk about a good unit, we always go back to Hawaii. I don't, for whatever reason, all the good stories come out of Hawaii and all the bad stories come out of Fort Stewart. Like literally that's how it's been working. But anyway, so when I was in Hawaii, I did many things, but one of the jobs I had was I was the platoon sergeant for 65th Engineer Battalion's S3. I was the S3 platoon sergeant, which is almost the worst job in the Army, right? The first sergeant for the HHC of the brigade or the battalion is the worst job. The S3 platoon sergeant is the next worst job because nobody listens to you anyways. But we were doing a change of command, and the new lieutenant colonel was coming in, and he reached out to talk to, he wanted to get everything done right. So I, being who I was, volunteered. So he reached out to me, Lieutenant Colonel Kruger, like Freddie, yes, just like Freddie. He reached out, and we got to talking before. So me and my wife, mostly my wife, but me and my wife got, the reception set up, got everything set up, got his house ready, all that kind of things. But anyway, he would come out of his office and he'd walk into the S3 because they were right next to each other, and he'd talk to the room and he'd be like, here's my idea. And all the captains would, yes, that's a great idea. That's a wonderful idea. And I'd scoff and I'd look back at my computer and I'd start typing again. And he pulled up a chair and he sat down right next to my desk, and he'd say the idea again and he'd say, what do you think? And if it was a good idea, I'd tell him it's a good idea. If it's a bad idea, I'd tell him it's a bad idea. And he'd say, okay, it's a bad idea. How do we fix this? And I would tell him my idea. And then he would take his idea and my idea and say, okay, what about this? And he would listen to my advice. Sometimes he wouldn't take it, but he would listen to it, right? So we were bouncing ideas back and forth off of each other, which to me, for a battalion commander to come listen to me and take my advice and actually not just completely dismiss me, like that blew my mind. And it made me realize it doesn't matter who you are or how important you think you are. You're not always right, no matter what, right? So for him to sit down and take the time to listen and talk it over and figure things out kind of modeled me for a while, because I mean, I was in Hawaii, I don't know, that was 8 years ago or something. So I still had career time left. And I realized, you know, no matter what I do, you're not always right. And he showed that to me from one of the highest levels you can have, and he wasn't afraid to ask for help, to take advice from people. He didn't want yes men. And I never wanted to be a yes man. And I tried not to be. I tried not to be, you know, an asshole, but I also tried not to be a yes man all the time. But Lieutenant Colonel Kruger showed me that it was okay to be a person, no matter what your rank or position was. You didn't have to be your job. You needed to make sure everybody was taken care of. And that, I wish I had met him earlier on than I did, but he made a huge impact on me later on in my career at a much higher level. So I wanted to give a shout out to anybody that may have met him. So,
nice.
But yeah, he was a good dude.
That's awesome, man. Thank you for sharing that. I'm just wondering if he lived on Elm Street.
Not in Hawaii, at least. I don't know about before that.
All right. Anybody else got anything else they want to share? We're about to wrap this up.
Man, it was a good topic, man. I appreciate y'all inviting me to this forum to share stories and gain a little bit of knowledge about other people's experiences, man. I definitely, as I move through life, something like this I take forward with me as I think about how I move and how I talk to people and interpret their stories and let it flow into me. And I hope I do the same for others, man. So I appreciate it for you calling me, Jim. Salute to you like always. It's a pleasure to meet you, Mike. And I either got to get up to North Carolina or you to South Carolina, man. We got to get back together.
Yeah, hey, that's too easy, man. Matter of fact, yeah, we need to schedule something soon, man. Like, come and hang out with me and Mike. Mike, you got anything else?
No, somebody just mentioned earlier about, you know, taking all this in and, you know, growing from it and learning from other people. And that's, you know, I keep saying it. I think I say it almost every single episode, but that's why we do this. That's why we're here.
Yeah.
We're doing it to tell our story, but it's also helping us talk about things that we don't often talk about, helping us to hear other perspectives that we don't often hear. It's just helping us help other people in a way that we never thought we might need. Things changed a lot for all of us throughout our whole career and afterwards. And to hear, you know, you guys get on and say, you know, this means something to you, that just helps reassure the fact that, you know, we want to keep doing this and we're going to keep doing it as often as we can, you know, without letting life get too far in the way. So I really appreciate you guys being on and sharing some of your stories with us and your mentors.
Hey, well, thanks, guys. We appreciate y'all being on the show, man. And, you know, hopefully, you know, in the future we can get you guys on again, man, because it was great. I had a great time. Like you said, this is like extra therapy, man.
Yes, sir.
So,
blessing to you all, man.
Hey, thanks, man. Appreciate it, guys.
This podcast is for entertainment purposes only and is not a substitute for professional or legal advice.